Bitcoin hits $400,000, Dogecoin grows by 11,000%, Ethereum reaches record high, Litecoin becomes the next big cryptocurrency. All of these are possibilities on the table. The future of cryptocurrency could be even wilder than we ever imagined. At this exact point in time, there may be a rare once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get insanely rich. At the same time, thousands are about to lose a lot of money by investing in the wrong cryptocurrencies. My name is Matt Wallace, and in this documentary, we are going to figure it out and get to the bottom of the most pressing questions. Let's go all the way back to August 18th, 2008, when the domain name bitcoin.org is registered. It was a seemingly simple act that went all but unnoticed. Then months later, a mysterious figure working under the alias Satoshi Nakamoto released their creation upon the world. On January 3rd, 2009, Bitcoin was born as the first Bitcoin block was mined. Known as the Genesis block, it would change the world forever. Over a year passed before it got a little traction, but on July 17th, 2010, Bitcoin was worth 5 cents per share. If you invested just $250 into Bitcoin at that time, it would be worth a staggering $100 million today. That is such a massive leap that it would literally change your life forever and thrust you with an insane relative speed into the tippy top of the 1%. Just imagine sitting in your mansion with that much in your bank account as your private chef brings you one of the nicest meals in the world. Now the big question is, what cryptocurrency could you invest $250 in now that might be worth millions 10 years from now? There are a few options that may give you a massive return on investment, so let's take an in-depth look. Ethereum Classic, Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin Cash, Pigeon Coin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin all have the potential to see wild growth. Of those, Dogecoin is catching a lot of eyes because it is currently at an insanely cheap price and could have real potential moving forward. It was created by an American named Billy Marcus all the way back in 2013 and started to play with momentum in 2014 with a price of $0.0001. That is 1/1000th of a penny. Over time, it has grown more and more. What if buying into Dogecoin now, at the time you're watching this documentary, could be like buying Bitcoin all the way back in 2012 or 2013? What if buying Ethereum now could be like buying Apple when it first came out? Or if buying Litecoin at this very moment could be like buying gold all the way back in 2000? As crazy as those sound, here's the case for them. Governments are continuing to show that they are terrible when it comes to money, printing too much, taking too much out of debt. So that is where cryptocurrency can be a massive, massive upside opportunity here. People may need to start switching over to something that's more reliable. The reason why cryptocurrency may become a more reliable source is because, similar to gold, there's a limited amount of it. The difference is, though, you can find more gold. You can mine gold, you can find it here, you can find it there. But with cryptocurrency, once all the cryptocurrency is out, there will be no more to be found, and those numbers are already starting to become more limited and more limited. We're starting to see more balancing out because of that. Once cryptocurrency does balance out, especially Bitcoin, when it stops going up and down so massively with these big swings and starts kind of staying relatively flat, that is when we could see it take over and become one of the main currencies across the world. When that happens, though, the question is, what will it be balancing out at? Will it be 400,000? Will it be 100,000, 50,000, 20,000, 10,000, 1,000? Will it be really high? Will it be really low? We don't know exactly what the answer to that question is. However, if it does in fact become one of the top currencies across the world, we can expect some massive numbers, 300,000 or higher. But it may not be able to get to that point because governments across the world are continuing to put regulations on it. They're continuing to try to stop it and put their slimy hands all over cryptocurrency, just like they did with the current monetary systems we have now. It's also possible that people could wise up and start electing smarter government officials across the globe. That would mean that the primary currencies being used right now would either retain their value or even potentially go up, which would not be good for cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency has a big door to slide into if the governments continue to fail us, but if the governments wise up, that's not going to happen. However, we can't exactly trust politicians and people in power who have let us down so many times for so long to make these right decisions, which means cryptocurrency is a great backup plan, and it could prove to to be crucial moving forward. It also means that the people who invest in it early, and technically now still may be early, could see a big payoff moving forward. There are a lot of people who are currently scared to invest in cryptocurrency because of the volatility. But once it balances out and actually becomes a currency that is used going forward, that changes everything. We will likely see a stop to this wave-like pattern where it goes up really high, then goes down really low, then goes up really high and continues on that pattern. It's not very stable. You can't rely on that. And people need to be able to rely on it, the majority of people, if they're going to start using it as a form of currency. Imagine you're a business owner and you start accepting cryptocurrency. You do $100 transactions at a time, you do 10 $100 transactions. At that point you have $1,000. Let's say your rent is $1,000 to keep your shop open for that month. The problem is, if you get that $1,000 in cryptocurrency, then the next week that cryptocurrency goes down drastically, you're not going to be able to pay your rent and your business is going to have to shut down. That's unacceptable for a form of currency. It can't be that volatile. Business owners are not going to want to be accepting it like that if they can't have more stability. Some of them will accept it as long as they can immediately transfer it to dollars. However, at that point, you're literally just using dollars, but using it in a different way. So it's not exactly really cryptocurrency. And that's why we're not going to see the big jump that we would see if people start actually using it. But once that happens, once enough people start using it and it becomes more of an actual currency and it has the stability for business owners and other people to rely on it, then instead of having this weird up and down, it's going to be more of a steady up as more and more people start to use it. There is eventually a cap to that when enough people use it, when more than 90% of the population is using it, or when the amount of people who start using it kind of drops off. At that point, it won't just go up at all. It'll kind of stay in a similar way and just be a normal form of currency. As we talked about though, we don't know what that balance out will be. Even if the governments around the globe and the economic systems start to be more stable and more smart decisions are made, cryptocurrency is still going to be there. The value of it will just be much lower. So regardless of what happens, there are many opportunities here. Some people are going to make a lot of money. Some people are going to become millionaires and change their lives forever. The question is, will that be you? Who exactly will that be? One thing you should definitely do is subscribe right now to this channel, because I promise you, no one else is going to give you the insight and the depth that I'm giving you right now. And we still have a couple other things that are extremely important to talk about. You've heard me mention the number 400,000 when it comes to a potential future price for Bitcoin multiple times in this video. The reason why I say 400,000 actually has some statistical backing behind it. The current market cap of gold is $10 trillion. The current market cap of Bitcoin is 500 billion, which is more than 20 times less. And you can see a lot of similarities between Bitcoin and gold. Both of them are in some ways a backing to the current monetary systems. They can be traded or used in different ways and exchanged for money. They are also both outside of the normal markets. So when you look at it that way and you draw the comparisons, you could say theoretically that Bitcoin could eventually reach the same value as gold in people's minds. If gold can go that high and can continue going up over time, then why can't Bitcoin? And if Bitcoin does, then we would see it reach a value of $400,000. And we could also see the value of gold go down. Gold and cryptocurrency could start competing very vigorously against each other for who is going to be the primary backing to the current monetary systems, or who could eventually replace the monetary systems. And that's where gold has a lot of flaws. It can't really replace the current monetary systems because it's hard to spend it, it's hard to use it, it's really valuable in small amounts, but cryptocurrency has the ability to replace it, because it has a lot of the same benefits as gold, while also being way more versatile. It does not have the same physical value as gold does. It can't be used for things, but it can be used to purchase things as a monetary system in a better way than gold can, because of the fact that you can break it down very, very, very small and still be able to use it. To put that into perspective, when it comes to a dollar, you can break it down into 100 pennies, but it's not exactly easy to do in certain situations. However, with Bitcoin, you can break it down 100 million times. 100 million times. That's significantly more than the dollar, and it can be used in just about any capacity because it's all electronic. So you don't actually have to pull out a Bitcoin and slice it up 100 million times. The computer will automatically do all of that for you and make things way easier. We've established the fact that cryptocurrency can be a good form of currency moving forward. It has a lot of upsides and a lot of potential. That said, there are some downsides to it as well. If we start seeing more hacking and more things going wrong with the internet, it's less stable than actually having something you can hold. People like to have something they can hold. If you can't hold it, you can't see it. Does it really exist? And in some ways, it only exists in comparison to other things. But if those other systems fail, Bitcoin is going to suffer as well, because there will be no way to gauge it or have it as a metric. So in order to make the shift, it really has to be a full throttle shift. If it's just a partial shift, we're not going to see the type of change that would be necessary for Bitcoin to become the primary form of currency, or another form of cryptocurrency to jump up and have a big share of that as well. Another hurdle to cryptocurrency taking off is that a lot of businesses, both online and brick and mortar, do not currently have the capability to accept Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency in any capacity yet. That's being built out, and more are being able to accept it as we continue to move into the future. But there's a lot of that's reliant upon it being stable before the businesses are going to accept it, as we mentioned previously. Then once that stables out, we can start to see the systems being implemented across the businesses. But here's the real kicker. Here's the important part. There are more cryptocurrencies than just Bitcoin. Right now, Bitcoin is the focus because it's by far the biggest one, but all of the other cryptocurrencies cannot be counted out. And if we do get to the point where businesses widely accept Bitcoin, what does that mean for the future of the other cryptocurrencies? And I'm about to tell you, it can be a very, very, very positive thing for them. Even if Bitcoin does not hit the goals we want, even if it stables out much, much, much lower than people are expecting and some people would like to see, that still is going to mean the systems will be implemented regardless of where it stables out. Once it stables out, it will become a form of currency that is used more commonly. And once those systems are in place, all of the other cryptocurrencies have a lot of room to grow, because even though it is a pretty big hurdle for Bitcoin that the systems aren't in place, it's a way, way, way bigger hurdle for the other cryptocurrencies that the systems aren't in place. So Bitcoin having stability will mean those other ones could take off massively and be used a lot more. Meaning, if you invest now in some of the smaller ones, like Dogecoin, where you can currently buy 29,000 for about $100, give or take, that could become a hugely profitable investment going forward. Some other options include Ethereum Classic, Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin Cash, Pigeon Coin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and multiple others. The cheapest of those by far is Ethereum Classic, which is well under $10, Dogecoin, which is significantly under a penny, and Pigeon Coin, which is even further below that. The question is, which one of those as an investor has the most potential to make you a ton of money, both in the short term and in the long term? Each one has its ups and downs. Some of them are tied very closely to Bitcoin. When Bitcoin goes up, they move at a very similar rate. The ones with Bitcoin in the name tend to be the most closely tied. Also, when Bitcoin goes down, they move at a very similar rate down. So they have the same upsides and downsides, just at a smaller scale of what Bitcoin has. But since you can buy Bitcoin by a small amount, it doesn't necessarily matter which one of those you invest in. The real opportunities for big growth are the ones that don't seem to be as closely tied to Bitcoin. All the ones that seem to be kind of startups that have different names, different perspectives, different owners, and different techniques of going into the market are the ones with the most potential for massive growth beyond what you have now. They also provide an opportunity for people just coming into the market who don't necessarily have a lot of money to spend to say, okay, well, I can invest in this, and at least it gives me hope in the long term. What's interesting about that, though, is when people have hope in it, that means people are going to invest more. And when people invest more, the price goes up. So those are tied directly together. The more people use it, the more confidence people have in it, the more people invest in it, the more people buy it. All of these are tied together, and it means we could see a pretty drastic increase for some of the less expensive ones. Not necessarily even because they're more valuable than the other ones, but just because in the minds of people who are coming in and don't have a lot of money, they just want to have a really high upside investment. And if enough people want that and believe in it, it actually will come true. So it's kind of a collective thing that if everyone works together on something, it can go up. But that also means that it will take away from something else. So there are gives and takes to all of this. If one goes too high up, the other ones may come down some. If one goes too high down, the other ones may come up some. So you can't necessarily invest in any one of them and say you're 100% confident that it's going to go up in the long term. But if you do take some strategic risks, you could see them not only pay off, but pay off to the point where you never have to work again. And that's the dream of pretty much every American and pretty much everyone all across the world. When you have that kind of financial freedom, you can do whatever you want. You can buy whatever you want, live wherever you want, and only work if that's what you decide to do, not because you have to. It takes away the stress and the frustration of having to go to a 9-to-5 job or another job where you're just drained all the time. You don't have a lot of energy, even if you like your job. You know what you may like more? Not having to go to any job at all, or only having to do the things you want to do. And one government that is especially bad as of late is the US government. The reason why you should care about that is because the dollar is one of the primary systems of currency across the globe. It's so common that it's even used in places like North Korea. When you see North Korea using, and China using, and Russia using, and all of those places using the same form of currency, you know how important it is to the entire global economy. So when the US dollar collapses, if it collapses, that could have massive ramifications that go across the entire globe and change things for a lot of people. The US government continues to not only print money at alarming rates, but also take out debt at way too high rates. That is alarming for a number of reasons. The first one is that when you take out debt, you then have to pay interest back on it. A lot of that debt is bought by the citizens of the country who's taking out the debt. A lot of it is also bought from citizens in other countries. And as they do that, they're doing it because they expect to get the money back. The problem is that when you get to the point where you're taking out debt to pay interest on debt, it becomes a vicious loop, and that interest will eventually grow out of control, as it seems to be doing to the point now where the US government on some years spends billions, hundreds of billions, on interest on the debt, and even at some points has taken out over $1 trillion in debt in just 1 year. It's one thing when that happens rarely, but when it starts to happen every single year, that's when it gets out of control, and that's when it becomes something that is not only dumb, but completely and totally illogical, and leaves room for cryptocurrency to come in and completely replace it. So if you're the US government right now, you're making a terrible decision if you want the value of the dollar to continue to stay high. But regardless of what people want, that may not be what happens. One of the biggest negative surprises happened in 2020 when almost everything was shut down by the government. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, now people didn't have jobs, people didn't have businesses they could run, and those people, what did they expect? Money in return for having their stuff shut down. In a lot of ways, that makes sense. If the government shuts something down, they should give people money. However, the problem is that the government was being irresponsible for so long that they already had an insane amount of debt racked up, to the point now where you can't exactly give people money without taking out more insane amounts of debt, which doubles down and doubles down and doubles down. And as much as the people now deserve that money, and they do, the problem is that the people of the future deserve the money too, and the people of the future may even deserve it more. When I say people of the future, I'm talking about us. We are the people of the future. We have to continue living with these decisions going forward. We have to continue watching what happens and being part of this, and the consequences are very much ours to face. So I'm not talking about future people, I'm literally talking about us in the future. What happens next time there has to be a shutdown? What if that thing of the future is way worse and causes way more parts of the economies to shut down? What if it hurts the whole world at a much higher pace and is significantly harder to deal with? What then? Well, the governments have already racked up so much debt. Where are they going to get the money now? You can't just take money out of thin air forever and expect that to be a constant stream of money. It is not going to work, it will never work, and it can't work. The reason why is because as you take out debt, you then have to pay that debt back, and you have to pay it back with interest. The people who are taking out the debt from the US government is mostly the US citizens. There are also people taking out the debt from other economies and other places around the world, and a few other ways to take out debt. But the point is that that money is not just being generated out of thin air. It will all have to be paid back at some point. And what happens if it's not paid back? In fact, maybe I should say what happens when it's not paid back. Because when you have hundreds of billions of dollars in interest that have to be paid every year, which is what is currently happening, hundreds of billions of dollars, you then have to start taking out debt on that debt to then pay back the interest, and when that happens, everyone is screwed. The people who have been investing and been putting that money in so the governments can take out debt will no longer be putting that money in. Once people realize they may not be able to get their money back, they're going to say, okay, alright then, I'm not going to invest in it. At that point, the only way the governments could make more money is by printing it. And we've all seen what happens when you print too much money. It completely devalues it because people start to realize that money is only as valuable as the resources you can buy with it. But you can't buy any resources with it when everyone also has that same amount of money and there's limited resources, but a lot of people who have money. It won't work and it can't work. So that is where cryptocurrency can be a massive upside opportunity here. We've had so many different types of currency over the years, but who knows, maybe cryptocurrency could be the very best of them all.